You know that feeling when everything seems so perfect on the outside, but deep down, there's this nagging voice telling you something's off? That was me, Claire Anderson. I thought I had it all figured out. A loving husband, 2 amazing kids, and a cozy house in Naperville, Illinois. My life looked like one of those HGTV shows where everything is styled just right, the kind of life people envy. But here's the thing about perfection. It's fragile like glass. And mine was about to shatter. Michael and I had been married for 15 years. 15 years. Can you believe that? It felt like yesterday we were giddy newlyweds, dreaming about our future together. Now we were parents, juggling soccer practices, school projects, and grocery runs. Don't get me wrong, I love my family. Love them more than anything. But lately, I couldn't help noticing how distant Michael had become. He used to kiss me goodbye every morning. Now he'd mumble something under his breath and grab his coffee before rushing out the door. At first, I chalked it up to stress from work or maybe midlife crisis vibes. But then, things started to feel different. Not bad exactly, but not quite right either. Here's the hard truth about marriage. No matter how strong it seems, cracks always start small. For us, they began with little things. Like the way Michael would zone out during dinner conversations, scrolling through his phone instead of listening to Emma talk about her science fair project. Or how he stopped holding my hand when we walked into church on Sundays. It wasn't dramatic. He didn't yell at me or storm out of the house, but it was there. Silent. Invisible. Until one night, I heard him laughing on the phone while pacing in our bedroom. His laugh sounded different. Lighter. Happier. I remember standing in the hallway, clutching my robe, pretending I wasn't eavesdropping. "Who are you talking to?" I asked casually when he finally hung up. He froze for a second, then shrugged. "Just Rachel from work," he said, brushing past me. Rachel. Even the name made my stomach twist. Who was she? Why did she make him laugh like that? I pushed the thoughts away, telling myself I was overreacting. But the seed of doubt had already been planted. Fast forward to the company gala, a black tie event Michael insisted I attend because it was important for networking. Important for networking, my ass. Looking back, I think he wanted to show me off as his trophy wife, even though I hadn't felt like a trophy in years. Anyway, I wore the sleek navy dress I bought on sale, hoping it would make me feel confident again. Spoiler alert, it didn't. That's when I met her. Rachel Monroe. Oh, God, where do I even begin with Rachel? She was everything I wasn't, or at least, what I thought I wasn't anymore. Tall, blonde, with legs that went on forever and a smile sharp enough to cut glass. She oozed confidence, cracking jokes and flirting effortlessly with everyone around her, including Michael. Watching them interact felt like being punched in the gut. They leaned in close, their laughter ringing louder than anyone else's in the room. When I confronted Michael later that night, he rolled his eyes and called me paranoid. "It's just work stuff, Claire," he said, dismissing my concerns. But I saw the way he looked at her. And worse, I saw the way she looked at him. That's when I knew something was very, very wrong. A week after the gala, I found it. A receipt, tucked inside the pocket of Michael's suit jacket, crumpled but still legible. Dinner for 2 at some fancy restaurant downtown. The date? Last Friday. The same night, he told me he was stuck in a meeting until late. My hands trembled as I held the paper, staring at the total. $247.89. Who spends almost $250 on ribs and cocktails, unless they're trying to impress someone? My heart raced as I pieced it all together. The late nights, the distracted silences, the damn receipt. "What's this?" I demanded, waving the evidence in front of him like a prosecutor in court. He froze, his face going pale. "Claire, it's not what it looks like," he stammered. Typical cheating husband line, right? Except this time, it came from my husband. The man I'd shared my entire adult life with. "Then tell me what it is, Michael," I snapped, tears burning my eyes. He hesitated, fumbling for words. In that moment, I realized something terrifying. I didn't recognize him anymore. After that fight, things got tense. Michael tried to play it cool, acting like nothing happened. But I couldn't unsee what I'd seen. Every glance at his phone, every whispered conversation, it all felt suspect. Then came the next blow. Rachel started showing up everywhere. Literally everywhere. At Liam's baseball game. Oh, I tagged along to support Michael at Emma's choir recital. Didn't want to miss such a special occasion, even at the grocery store. What a coincidence running into you here. Each encounter left me feeling smaller, less significant. I started questioning myself. Was I boring? Unattractive? Had I somehow driven Michael into her arms? Jenna, my best friend since college, kept reminding me it wasn't my fault. She's a predator, Claire, she said fiercely. And Michael? He's weak for letting her sink her claws in. Weak. The word echoed in my head long after she said it. Still, I clung to hope. Maybe this was just a phase. Maybe if I worked harder, loved him better, he'd come back to me. Right. The breaking point came sooner than I expected. One evening, after the kids were asleep, Michael sat me down in the living room. His face was grim, his shoulders slumped. For a second, I thought someone had died. Instead, he dropped the bombshell. I've fallen out of love with you, Claire, he said, his voice steady but cold. I'm in love with Rachel. In love with Rachel. The words hit me like a freight train, knocking the air out of my lungs. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline, the apology, something. But there was nothing, just emptiness. We need a divorce, he continued, as if delivering a weather report. Divorce. The word tasted bitter on my tongue. How could 15 years of marriage end like this? Over a woman he barely knew? I don't remember much after that. I think I cried, screamed, maybe threw a pillow at him. All I know is that by the end of the night, he was gone. Gone from our home. Gone from our lives. And I was left picking up the pieces of a shattered dream. The days after Michael moved out were a blur. I felt like I was drowning, gasping for air while the world kept spinning around me. He'd taken his suits, his golf clubs, and half the furniture we'd picked out together during happier times. The house suddenly felt too big, too quiet, too empty. It wasn't just the physical absence of him, it was the void he left behind. And then there was Rachel. Oh, how I hated her name. Her laugh. The way she strutted into my life like she owned it. She didn't even have the decency to feel guilty about stealing my husband. No, instead, she flaunted it. Within days, Michael posted photos on social media of them together, smiling at brunch, walking hand in hand by Lake Michigan, looking disgustingly happy. Every time I scrolled past one of their posts, it felt like salt being rubbed into an open wound. But here's the thing about pain, it forces you to grow. At first, I let myself wallow. I cried in the shower, avoided calls from friends, and drowned my sorrows in Ben and Jerry's. But eventually, survival kicked in. I had 2 kids who needed me. Emma looked at me with these big, worried eyes, asking if Daddy was coming back. Liam, bless his little heart, tried to cheer me up by telling jokes he didn't quite understand yet. They deserved better than a mom who spent all day in pajamas crying over a man who clearly didn't deserve us. So I started small. I cleaned out the closet Michael had abandoned, donating clothes that still smelled faintly of his cologne. I rearranged the living room, turning it into a space that felt mine. And slowly, painfully, I began to imagine a future without him. Jenna became my lifeline during those early months. She showed up at my door every Sunday with bagels and gossip, refusing to let me isolate myself. You can't stay in this pity party forever, she said one morning, plopping down on my couch. It's time to start living again for you. She dragged me to yoga classes, which I secretly hated but pretended to enjoy because it made her happy. That's where I met Ethan Carter. He was older than me, maybe late 40s, with kind eyes and a calming presence. A widower, he told me softly during our first conversation after class. His wife had passed away 3 years ago, leaving him to raise their teenage daughter alone. There was something about his story, a shared sense of loss, that resonated with me. Ethan wasn't pushy or intrusive. Instead, he listened. Really listened. When I talked about Michael, he didn't offer platitudes or try to fix things. He simply nodded and said, "That sounds really hard." Those 4 words meant more to me than any pep talk ever could. For the first time in months, I felt seen. Not as Claire the wronged wife, but as Claire, the woman beneath the wreckage. Meanwhile, Michael's shiny new relationship with Rachel started showing cracks. At first, it seemed picture perfect. They rented a sleek apartment downtown, filled with minimalist furniture and framed art that screamed pretentious. But beneath the surface, trouble brewed. Rachel turned out to be controlling, micromanaging every aspect of Michael's life. She criticized the way he dressed. "Those loafers are so last season," questioned his parenting choices. "Why does Liam eat so much sugar?" And even mocked his career ambitions. "Marketing director? Is that really as far as you're going to go?" Michael confided some of this to me during one of our rare co-parenting conversations. "I thought she was different," he admitted, rubbing his temples. "But now," he trailed off, leaving the sentence unfinished. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for him, to remind him of what he threw away, but another part couldn't muster the energy. Let him deal with the mess he created. Still, hearing about Rachel's behavior gave me a twisted sort of satisfaction. Karma, I thought smugly. It's only a matter of time before she gets hers. Turns out, karma works faster than I expected. One evening, Jenna called me, practically screaming with excitement. "You won't believe this," she said breathlessly. "Rachel got arrested." Arrested? For what? As it turned out, Rachel had been embezzling funds from Michael's company, funneling thousands of dollars into offshore accounts under fake names. Someone tipped off the authorities, and boom, handcuffs. At first, Michael denied knowing anything about it. But when investigators dug deeper, they discovered emails linking him to several questionable financial decisions Rachel had orchestrated. Suddenly, he wasn't just a scorned husband, he was a potential accessory to fraud. Watching the scandal unfold in the news felt surreal. Reporters camped outside Michael's building, snapping photos of him looking pale and disheveled. Social media erupted with memes mocking their downfall. Meanwhile, I sat on my couch eating popcorn, feeling like I was watching a soap opera where I used to be the main character. Part of me wanted to gloat. "See, this is what happens when you choose someone else over your family." But another part of me felt sad. Sad for Emma and Liam, whose dad was now embroiled in public disgrace. Sad for Michael, who finally realized too late that Rachel was never worth it. As the dust settled from the scandal, Michael reached out to me. Not through texts or lawyers, but in person. He showed up at my door unannounced one rainy afternoon, drenched and desperate. "Claire, please," he begged, his voice cracking. "I need your help." Help? After everything he'd done? I almost slammed the door in his face. But then I saw the look in his eyes. Not arrogance or entitlement, but genuine fear. Fear of losing everything. His reputation, his freedom, his kids. "I'll testify against Rachel," he promised. "Just don't let her destroy me completely." Against my better judgment, I agreed to hear him out. Over coffee, he poured his heart out, apologizing for his mistakes and begging for forgiveness. "I was stupid," he admitted, tears streaming down his face. "I thought Rachel would make me happy, but she ruined my life. All I want is to come home, to you and the kids." His words hit me like a ton of bricks. Could I forgive him? Should I? My head said no. He betrayed me in the worst possible way. But my heart remembered the man I once loved. The father of my children. The partner I thought I'd grow old with. I didn't give him an answer that day. How could I? I was torn between two worlds. The life I lost and the life I was trying to build. Either choice would change everything. The scandal surrounding Rachel and Michael became the talk of Naperville, and not in a good way. Every local news outlet covered it, from the dry recaps on WGN to the snarky commentary on neighborhood Facebook groups. People whispered about them at Starbucks, yoga class, and even my kids' school pickup line. I tried to shield Emma and Liam as much as possible, but they weren't blind. They saw the headlines. They overheard the gossip. And worst of all, they saw their dad's face plastered across TV screens, looking defeated and broken. Michael wasn't just dealing with public humiliation. He was also facing serious legal consequences. The district attorney charged him with conspiracy to commit fraud because of his role in approving some of Rachel's shady deals. His lawyer advised him to cooperate fully with investigators, which meant testifying against Rachel in court. It was ironic, really. Rachel, the woman he'd left me for, was now dragging him down into the mud. As for Rachel, she disappeared after posting bail, fleeing town before authorities could question her further. Rumor had it she fled to Costa Rica, living off the money she'd stolen. Meanwhile, Michael stayed behind, drowning in guilt and regret. He called me almost daily, pleading for another chance. Not romantically, but as a co-parent. "I messed up, Claire," he'd say, his voice trembling. "But I still love our kids. Please don't let them hate me." It broke my heart hearing him sound so human. 4 months, I'd imagined him as this cold, unfeeling monster who discarded our family without a second thought. But now he sounded like the scared, lost man I used to comfort during tough times. Did that mean I should forgive him? Or was I just fooling myself again? One evening, Michael showed up at my house unexpectedly, holding a bottle of wine. "Can we talk?" he asked softly, standing awkwardly on my doorstep. Against my better judgment, I let him in. We sat at the kitchen table, the same place where we'd shared countless meals and arguments over the years. He poured us each a glass of wine, though I barely touched mine. Then he started talking, not the rehearsed apologies or excuses he'd given before, but raw, honest truths. "I never stopped loving you, Claire," he admitted, his voice cracking. "I just stopped seeing you. You were always there, the rock of our family, but I took you for granted. And then Rachel came along, and she made me feel alive again. Young, exciting, but it was all fake. She didn't care about me, not really. All she cared about was climbing higher, taking whatever she could get her hands on." His confession stung, but it also stirred something deep inside me. Memories of happier times surfaced. Lazy Sunday mornings, laughter-filled vacations, quiet moments when it felt like the world revolved around us. I wanted to believe him, to believe that he truly regretted everything, but trust is fragile. Once shattered, it doesn't mend easily. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said, finally meeting his gaze. "But I'll think about it, for the kids' sake." He nodded, tears streaming down his face. "That's all I can ask for," he whispered. Ethan noticed the change in me almost immediately. We'd grown closer over the past few weeks, bonding over long walks and late-night conversations. He knew about Michael's return into my life, not just legally, but emotionally, and while he never pressured me to choose, I could tell he was worried. "Claire," he said one evening as we sipped tea on my porch, "you deserve happiness. Whether that's with Michael or someone else, or even just by yourself, you need to decide what's best for you." His words struck a chord. Up until now, I'd been so focused on surviving, getting through each day without falling apart, that I hadn't stopped to consider what I truly wanted. Did I want to rebuild my old life with Michael? Or did I want to embrace a new chapter with Ethan? "I'm scared," I confessed, wrapping my arms around myself. "What if I make the wrong choice? What if I end up hurt again?" Ethan reached out, placing a gentle hand on mine. "Life is messy," he said with a small smile. "There are no guarantees, but running away from fear won't protect you forever. Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith, even if you're terrified." His advice stayed with me long after he left. For the first time, I allowed myself to imagine a future beyond Michael, a future where I wasn't defined by my past mistakes or his betrayal. Could I really start over? With Ethan? Just as I began leaning toward Ethan, tragedy struck. Liam was hit by a car while crossing the street after soccer practice. Thankfully, he survived, but the accident left him hospitalized with a broken leg and internal injuries. When Michael heard the news, he rushed to the hospital, panic etched across his face. "Is he okay?" he asked breathlessly, grabbing my arm. Seeing him, so vulnerable, reminded me of the man I once loved, the father who would do anything for his children. For days, we alternated shifts at Liam's bedside, working together to keep Emma calm and reassured. Old habits resurfaced. Michael bringing me coffee in the mornings, brushing stray hairs out of my face when I fell asleep in the chair beside Liam's bed. There were moments when it felt like old times, like the cracks between us might heal if we just held on tight enough. But reality always crept back in. When Liam finally stabilized, Michael pulled me aside in the hospital hallway. "This feels right, Claire," he said earnestly. "Being here with you, with the kids. Like maybe we could try again." His words caught me off guard. Try again. After everything. My heart ached with conflicting emotions. Was it possible to forgive and forget? Or was I setting myself up for more pain? In the weeks following Liam's accident, Michael proved himself in ways I hadn't anticipated. He attended every physical therapy session, helped Emma with her math homework, and even cooked dinner a few nights a week. Watching him reconnect with our kids softened something inside me. Maybe redemption wasn't impossible after all. Still, doubts lingered. Could I trust him to stay this time? Or would history repeat itself? Late one night, as we sat together in Liam's room, I voiced my fears. How do I know you won't leave again? I asked quietly, staring at the floor. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. You don't, he admitted. All I can do is show you who I am now, who I want to be. I can't undo the past, Claire, but I can fight for our future. If you'll let me. His honesty disarmed me. It wasn't the grand romantic gesture movies portray. It was real, messy and imperfect. Just like us. After weeks of soul-searching, I finally made my decision. Sitting across from Michael at the kitchen table, I took a deep breath. I want to believe you, I began, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling inside me. But rebuilding trust takes time. If we're going to do this, if we're going to try again, we need boundaries. Therapy. Patience. Michael nodded eagerly, relief washing over his face. Whatever you need, he promised. I'll do whatever it takes. As much as part of me wanted to give him another chance, another part couldn't ignore the lessons I'd learned during our separation. I realized I didn't need him to be whole. I was stronger, braver, and more resilient than I ever thought possible. So instead of rushing back into his arms, I chose independence. I think we should focus on co-parenting for now, I told him gently. The kids need both of us, but they also need stability. Let's take things slow, okay? He looked disappointed but nodded in agreement. Okay, he said softly. Whatever you need. Walking away from the possibility of reconciliation wasn't easy, but it felt right. For the first time in years, I was choosing me. Choosing independence felt liberating, but it wasn't without its challenges. 4 weeks after my conversation with Michael, I wrestled with guilt and doubt. Was I being too harsh? Too stubborn? Part of me worried that I was throwing away a chance at reconciliation for pride, or worse, fear. But every time those thoughts crept in, I reminded myself of how far I'd come. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done since college. Each night, I'd sit by the window with a cup of chamomile tea and write about my feelings. Some entries were angry, others tearful, but many were hopeful. Writing became my therapy, a way to process everything I'd been through. One passage stood out to me. Sometimes, love isn't enough. Sometimes, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or returning. It means letting go of what hurt you so you can heal. That realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I wasn't rejecting Michael or our history together. I was honoring myself. My worth. My right to choose a life that brought me peace, not pain. Emma and Liam adjusted to the new normal surprisingly well. They loved having Michael around more often, but they also seemed relieved that their parents weren't fighting anymore. Dad's trying really hard, Emma told me one evening as we folded laundry together. And you seem happier too, Mom. Her words warmed my heart. Maybe this messy, imperfect arrangement was exactly what our family needed. Michael threw himself into therapy, determined to understand why he'd made such devastating choices. He attended sessions twice a week, sometimes bringing Emma and Liam along for family counseling. Slowly but surely, he began unpacking his insecurities, his midlife crisis, and his misplaced desire for validation. I thought success meant having it all, he confessed during one particularly raw session. A great job, a beautiful wife, amazing kids. But when things got tough, I ran. I looked outside our marriage for answers instead of working on us. Hearing him speak so openly made me realize just how much he'd grown. The old Michael would have brushed off these conversations, dismissing them as unnecessary or overly emotional. But this version of him, humble, reflective, willing to change, felt foreign yet familiar. He even reached out to Ethan once, thanking him for supporting me during the darkest days of our separation. You're a better man than I am, Michael admitted, shaking Ethan's hand. Take care of her if she'll let you. Ethan smiled politely but didn't engage further. Our relationship had shifted since my decision to remain independent. While we stayed close friends, I knew pursuing romance with him wouldn't be fair, not until I fully healed from my past. With Michael focused on rebuilding trust and Rachel long gone, rumors suggested she was still hiding overseas. I finally allowed myself to dream again. I poured my energy into my interior design business, taking on projects that challenged me creatively and professionally. One client, a local boutique owner named Sarah, loved my work so much that she referred me to several friends. Within months, my schedule filled up, and I found myself turning down potential clients because I couldn't keep up. That's when Jenna planted an idea in my head. Why don't you start your own firm? At first, the thought terrified me. Running a business required skills I wasn't sure I possessed: marketing, networking, financial planning. But the more I thought about it, the more excited I became. This was my chance to create something entirely mine. Something that reflected who I was now: strong, capable, and fearless. So I took the leap. I rented a small office space downtown, hired a part-time assistant, and designed a logo that felt chic yet approachable. When I officially launched Claire Anderson Interiors, I celebrated with a small gathering at my house. Jenna, Ethan, Emma, Liam, and even Michael showed up to cheer me on. Standing in the middle of the room, surrounded by people who cared about me, I felt a sense of accomplishment I hadn't experienced in years. This wasn't just a career milestone, it was proof that I could rebuild my life, piece by piece. Months later, Rachel's case finally went to trial. She'd been extradited back to the U.S., looking gaunt and defeated compared to the polished woman I remembered from the company gala. During the proceedings, Michael testified against her, detailing how she'd manipulated him into approving fraudulent deals. His testimony painted her as the calculating opportunist she truly was. In the end, Rachel was convicted on multiple counts of embezzlement and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Watching the verdict delivered on live TV gave me a strange sense of closure. Not because I wanted revenge, but because it reinforced the truth. Karma always finds you. Michael avoided jail time thanks to his cooperation with investigators, though he did pay hefty fines and perform community service. More importantly, he used the experience as a catalyst for change. He quit his corporate job and started volunteering at a nonprofit organization that helped families affected by financial fraud. "It's not about redemption," he told me one day over coffee. "It's about making amends, doing better." I nodded, proud of the progress he'd made, not just for himself, but for our kids. By Thanksgiving, life felt balanced. Not perfect, but peaceful. I hosted dinner at my house, filling the table with dishes everyone loved: roasted turkey, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, and Jenna's famous pumpkin pie. Emma helped set the table, while Liam entertained us with knock-knock jokes he'd memorized from school. Michael arrived late, bearing a bouquet of sunflowers, one of my favorites. "These reminded me of you," he said simply, handing them over. There was no awkwardness between us anymore, just a quiet understanding. We were partners in parenting, united by love for our children rather than romantic obligation. Ethan sat beside me during dinner, offering gentle support whenever I needed it. Though we hadn't pursued anything beyond friendship, his presence reminded me that I wasn't alone. I had people in my corner, people who believed in me, flaws and all. As I watched my family laugh and share stories around the table, I realized something profound. Happiness isn't about finding perfection. It's about embracing imperfection, the messy, beautiful chaos of life, and choosing joy anyway. Later that night, after everyone had left and the house grew quiet, I curled up on the couch with my journal. The pages were nearly full now, each entry documenting a step in my journey toward healing. Flipping back to the earliest ones, I marveled at how much had changed, not just externally but within me. I wrote a final entry before closing the book. 15 years ago, I married a man I thought I'd grow old with. Today, I'm learning to grow old with myself. Love taught me many things, but loss taught me the most valuable lesson of all: self-worth. Without it, nothing else matters. With it, anything is possible. Closing the journal, I placed it on the shelf next to photos of Emma and Liam. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, but for now I was content. Exactly 1 year after launching Claire Anderson Interiors, I stood in the lobby of my newly expanded office space, champagne flute in hand. The grand opening celebration buzzed with excitement, clients mingling, colleagues congratulating me, reporters snapping photos for local magazines. Jenna hugged me tightly, tears in her eyes. "You did it, girl," she whispered. "Against all odds, you built this incredible thing." Ethan raised his glass in a toast. "To second chances," he said, smiling warmly. I glanced around the room, overwhelmed with gratitude. This moment wasn't just about professional success. It was about resilience, about rising from ashes and creating beauty where there was once ruin. When Michael walked in later, carrying a gift wrapped in silver paper, I greeted him with a genuine smile. "Thank you for coming," I said, accepting the present. Inside was a framed photo of our wedding day, young, hopeful, and blissfully unaware of the storms ahead. "Just a reminder of where we started," he said softly. I nodded, touched by the gesture. Where we started may have shaped me, but it didn't define me. Not anymore. The story of my life didn't end with betrayal or tragedy. Instead, it evolved into something richer, deeper, and infinitely more meaningful. Emma thrived in school, earning straight A's and landing a spot in the advanced choir program. Liam recovered fully from his accident, scoring his first goal in soccer that spring. Michael continued volunteering, finding purpose in helping others navigate struggles similar to his own. And me, I kept designing spaces that inspired joy and connection. My firm grew, earning recognition in industry publications and attracting high-profile clients. Yet none of those accolades compared to the satisfaction of knowing I'd rebuilt my life, not for anyone else, but for me. One evening, as I watched Emma perform in her school play, I caught myself smiling. Not the forced kind, but the kind that comes from a place of pure contentment. Life hadn't turned out the way I'd planned, but maybe that was okay. After all, the best stories are rarely predictable. They're messy, unpredictable, and achingly human. Just like mine,